Hey everyone, so this is my quick review, I guess, of the 2022 Aprilia Tuareg 660. I don't have a lot of battery life left on my camera, so I'm going to try to get this done fast. It's a good middleweight adventure bike for off-road, in my opinion, because it has a lower center of gravity than the Tenere 700 that I had before. Makes it easier to ride around and maneuver it, turn it for such a big bike. The suspension from the factory comes set up pretty well. It doesn't need a lot of work unless you're starting to pick up the pace a little bit more on rougher trails with whoops and stuff like that. But over rocks on like BDR type trails and paces, it's actually pretty comfortable. I haven't really felt the need to get any work done on it until recently when I started pounding whoopy trails. Let's see, what else makes it good at off-road? The tubeless wheels that it comes with, standard, aren't the best, in my opinion, for off-road. They're good if you keep an eye on them and keep the spoke tension like perfect all the time. But if they get loose on you, they tend to bend. The wheels tend to bend a little bit if you hit rocks and whatnot, because they're made out of a soft material and they're not the most robust wheel ever made for these kind of bikes. So what I ended up doing was buying the rally wheels when they came out, because they're smaller profile, they're meant to run tubes, they're a little bit stronger, the spokes are actually thicker. I think they're 4mm spokes instead of 3.5mm spokes, what I measured on with my calipers. And it kind of just depends on what kind of riding you're going to do. If you're going to do a lot more of off-road and rocky trails, definitely go with the rally version with the rally wheels. Just know that you're going to have to either make it tubeless with an Altex tubeless conversion kit, or just carry a spare tube and be ready to patch it. What I do is I run some slime in here. It usually gets me through most punctures except like nails. A nail got me really bad last time. Good at carrying stuff for BDRs. It's got a strong subframe. The exhaust mount is not welded to the subframe, so if you bend it, you can actually unbolt it and get a new one. Take notes, Yamaha. I put some Jivy crash bars on it and an AXP skid plate, and those have been pretty good. I'm not a fan of plastic skid plates on these heavier bikes now that I've really taken this thing through its paces. But they've been holding up okay, in my opinion. And the crash bars have been doing pretty well. I definitely recommend a good set of handguards. These highway dirt bike handguards have been pretty robust and stout, and I like that they bolt to the triple clamps, the handlebar clamp. The number one thing that makes this bike better than all other middleweight bikes out there currently is the off-road mode button. You don't have to stop and turn off ABS every time that you turn the bike on and off or drop it or whatnot. If you leave it in off-road mode, every time you come back to it, whether it be 5 minutes later after dropping it on a hill or 2 weeks later after you come back from a trip or whatnot, you turn that baby on, it's going to be in the last setting you left it, which is usually off-road, rear ABS off, and traction control off for me when I'm out here. I do not recommend traction control level 1, especially in soft dirt where you need to spin the wheel. The computer just cuts too much power. Took the windshield off. Hopefully it doesn't look too goofy without it. I just don't like it rattling around when I'm off-roading. And it also kind of gets close to my face when I do a lot of standing up. Speaking of standing up, this bike does have a lower seat height too than the Yamaha Tenere 700. I put a C Concepts low seat on that and fiddled with the forks a little bit, I believe. And this bike is still lower from the factory with the stock seat. It's easier to push around. I can actually almost flat foot both feet with boots, and I'm only 5'8" with a 31 inch inseam kind of in the middle there. So it's really nice when you put your foot down on a trail or you get a little wonky, you can kind of catch it before it gets out of hand. Reliability wise, it's been pretty good off-road. I haven't been stranded yet, knock on wood. So The fuel gauge doesn't work currently. That's one of the big issues a lot of people are having. I don't really care because I just use the trip meter to keep track of my miles and how far I'm going. I usually fill up around 150 miles anyway. It's a 4.75 gallon tank, and I average about 40 to 50 miles per gallon. Less if I'm riding in this sand, obviously. More if I'm doing back road cruising, like at 50, 55 miles an hour. Cruise control is pretty good. I don't know why other bikes with ride-by-wire throttles don't have cruise control built in. It's just simple programming at this point. It's a lifesaver, especially for me, because I have some titanium hardware in my wrist. And on longer trips, it's nice to be able to stretch out your right arm and your forearm. Heated grips are Oxford ones I threw on because the OEM ones don't get hot enough apparently. And I also wired them straight to the battery. I haven't had them kill the battery yet. It's a lithium-ion battery too, so be sure to keep it topped off and don't let it drain too much, or else you're going to have electrical issues. I think I have about 14,500 miles right now, almost 15,000 miles. Yeah, almost 15,000. And it's been pretty reliable. The valves were in spec last time I checked them. They'll probably need adjustment on this next 24,000 mile valve check. It's every 12,000 miles about. And what else? Oh, the clutch. I'm not a fan of the clutch as much. It's a cable clutch, which, whatever. It's actually pretty easy to pull. You see, I could do it with one finger, but it's hard to get it in the friction zone where I like it. All my, it is a little clunky on the shifting. It's not as bad as the Yamaha Tenere 700 that needed a whole clutch recall, but it's not the smoothest clutch. To me, at least, my model is. Maybe I just can't get it adjusted correctly, which could always be the case. I'm not an expert. I just a guy that rides. And, that's probably one of the only things that bugs me. I'm always fiddling with it, kind of trying to find the right spot. So if it had a hydraulic clutch like my KTM, that'd be pretty cool. But it's not really a deal breaker or anything in my opinion. You have to take it to the dealer to reset the service light unless you buy the Gabbro racing tuner, ECU tuner. You can flash different maps once you swap out your exhaust, which I highly recommend you do because it sounds a lot better. I think it sounds pretty good stock though. And with that tuner, you're able to clear the maintenance light. And now he apparently added the functionality. You can add the quick shifter and enable it without going to the dealership if you don't have one already, which I might look into doing down the road just to try that quick shifter out. My buddy has it on his and he really likes it. He hasn't had any issues with it, although I've heard some people do. Oh, and make sure you swap out the shifter bolt because that thing's pretty fragile. It snaps and it's hard to get out sometimes. Camel ADV has a really nice kit that it's not that expensive either. I think it's like $15, and they'll do the shifter side and the brake side. Then the kickstand spring bolt kind of sticks out a lot. I broke that off in Colorado on the Ophir Pass, going over some rocks. And unfortunately, I had to borrow some zip ties and keep the kickstand zip tied up for the remainder of my Colorado BDR trip. And that kind of put a damper on it. Oh, and speaking of damper, the steering head nut, I guess, comes off or loosens up every now and then. If it feels a little, if you hear like a noise in the front, you just want to take I think it's an 18 millimeter Allen. No, it's a 14 millimeter Allen, and you want to crank that down as tight as you can. I mean, it says in the book it's like 70 foot-pounds or something like that, but I just crank it down, dude, because that thing always comes loose. It's a little annoying. Really like how easy it is to work on for an Italian bike. And it uses, pretty common parts, so you're not going to be like stranded out in the middle of nowhere unless you have an electrical issue. I've been pretty lucky so far. I did rip my rear brake line and ABS sensor wire on some barbed wire that I ran over, but I just took the old brake line to a hydraulic shop in the area, and they made me a replacement same day for I think it was like $60. Not bad at all. And then I just soldered the wires back together. I painted everything, painted the front, I didn't like the way the gray panels kind of looked against everything. If you're gonna go with, you know, some colors, if 3 colors, try to make them all match. The gray kind of just stuck out for me. And I didn't like the big A on the side either. On the front, I put on a high fender kit from Camel ADV. It was really nice. It was cheaper going that way than getting a replacement low fender that my spoke ripped off. So I think it looks pretty good too. I made like a little budget rally bike. It has almost everything the other rally bike has except the longer suspension and the exhaust. But other than that, it's pretty close to it. So if you guys have any other questions or anything about it, let me know. This has mostly been like an off-road focused review. If you want me to do one more on how it handles on the road, like on long road trips and stuff, I've done a couple of those, so just let me know. Leave me a comment. Please like and subscribe. I don't really do a lot of these videos, but hey man, YouTube's more entertaining nowadays than the crap we have on TV to watch.